Hi everyone, it's Hannah from Hand Done Crochet, and today we are making this Mosaic Crochet poncho together. Now, I love Mosaic Crochet. It's really intimidating, I think, for some people when you first look at it, but when you break it down and work out the steps of how to actually do it, it's incredibly simple. Now, this poncho uses overlay Mosaic Crochet, which is different to inset Mosaic Crochet, and I'll talk you through the whole process obviously as we make it, but the important thing to know is that this video tutorial is to go alongside and accompany the written pattern, so you can either find the written pattern on my blog to view, or you can purchase the premium PDF which has both the written pattern and the chart, so you can choose whether you will follow along with either of those if you purchase the PDF pattern. But this video alone won't be enough to be able to make the poncho, so you'll need to go and find the pattern wherever suits you best. So I will just talk you through the steps of how we're going to make it. The poncho itself is really straightforward in its construction. We have two matching rectangles, but they can be whatever you would like them to be. This version here that I have made has got a really, I can't get it all on the screen, a really elaborate bottom half here, and then we have two more sets of mosaic in the top half of it, and we have a matching back panel. But I'm also in the process of making another one that just has the mosaic section at the bottom here, and then has a very plain top, but you can do whatever you would like to do. There's lots of details within the pattern as to how to make it your own, shall we say. And it's sized from extra small through to 5XL adult sizes, and you can add a belt to it. You can have an optional cowl on the top of it around your neckline as well. There's lots of ways that you can make this truly unique for you. So to make the poncho, we are going to need two different hook sizes. Now I met the gauge with a 5mm hook for the mosaic section, and then for these plain stitches here I went down half a hook size, so to a 4.5mm hook. So make sure you do a gauge swatch and work out which size of hooks you're going to need. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a needle for your end, and a few stitch markers. I didn't want to lose this on the colour of the yarn there. And then yarn wise, we are using Mellowspun DK from Maxim, which is a lovely category 3 100% acrylic yarn. It comes in a load of lovely colours. And then also alongside that, to do the mosaic part of it, or the coloured section, I chose to use Prism from Maxim, which is again 100% acrylic and a category 3 weight yarn. And you'll find all the links in the description below of which colours I used, how much I used for each size, and all of that kind of stuff. So go ahead and grab all of your supplies and meet me back here with the pattern by your side, and we will get making. So our first job for this poncho is to make this bottom section, which is slightly different for different sizes, but as you'll see, either if you're working from the written pattern or the chart, it's actually very similar, and we have the same number of repeats as we go across. It looks really intricate and really involved, but actually we have to just break it down into 3 sections, and that's very straightforward to then just keep repeating across the whole of our panel. Now I use the larger hook for this size, and as I say, it's the overlay mosaic crochet technique, which we're going to talk through now. Now I'm not going to sit here and show you every single stitch that we do here, because what I'm going to actually do is just teach you the principles of overlay mosaic crochet, and then you'll be able to apply those to the pattern for this mosaic section here. Then I will be able to talk you through this plain section that we do with really straightforward stitches that also includes belt holes that we have here, and then you'll know everything that you need to know to then carry on and work these mosaic sections and plain sections all the way to the neckline. So for our first mosaic section, I'm actually just going to do a small swatch for you so that you can see how it works. It uses a small part of the entire pattern, and you'll see in the pattern, whether you're using the chart or whether you're using the written pattern, we have at the beginning of the poncho, at the beginning of each row, we have 21 stitches that forms the beginning of our row. Then we have multiples. I don't know why I'm doing it in sections like this. I should show you on the actual thing, shouldn't I? Hang on. That's better. So you'll see in the pattern that we have stitch multiples of 21 to begin with, which takes us up to where this line is. So all of the sizes will work these 21 stitches. And then what we have are 32 stitches. So that then becomes our repeat, our 32 stitches from this stitch after this line to this line here. So we then work 32 stitches, 32, 32 for as many repeats as you need for the size that you're making. And then just at the very end, I need to still weave in all of these ends. At the very end, we have 2 stitches to work there at the end. So we'll have 21 at the beginning, 32, 32, 32, however many 32s you need, and then 2 to finish us off. So if that's already bamboozled you, don't worry, it's all detailed in the pattern. But the idea of our mosaic crochet is very, very simple. We are going to be alternating our colours. We are going to be using colour A, then colour B, then colour A, then colour B. We will never ever change our colour, our yarn colour, within a row of the pattern. So you don't ever have to think about switching, you don't ever have to carry yarns through the back. We are just going to use one colour per row as we work through the pattern. And the other thing about overlay mosaic crochet to know is that we always work from the right side facing us. So when we get to the end of the row, which I'll show you when we get there obviously, when we get to the end of the row, we always break our yarn and we go back to the beginning of the row again. So let's start by working this small swatch that I'm going to do. So I'm going to show you the first 21 stitches of the pattern and then the last 2, because we do something slightly different at either end of the panel that we have for the poncho. So initially, what I will do now is I'm going to work 23 foundation single crochet stitches, but yours will be much, much bigger than that. So for example, the size that I made there that you saw has got 151 stitches across. So you need to make the foundation single crochets that you need for the size that you're making. You'll find that information in the pattern. But how you do it basically is that you're going to use your larger hook and you're going to chain 2. And then into the back bump of that first chain, you're going to put your hook through. And then we are going to create our first foundation single crochet. And the way we do that is we yarn over and we pull through. Then we yarn over and we pull through just 1, because that gives us a chain that we're going to need in a minute. And then you yarn over and you pull through both. So that then becomes your stitch. And this chain that we created here becomes the place that we put our next foundation single crochet in. So we put our hook through that chain that we made, we yarn over and we pull through, we yarn over and we pull through just 1 that makes our next chain that we need, and then we yarn over and we pull through 2. And that's all there is to it for our foundation single crochets. You're going to make as many of those as you need for the size you're making. But as I say, for this swatch, I'm just going to do 21 so that I can show you the beginning and the end and just the principles of this mosaic crochet skill that we need. Now, once you have the amount of foundation single crochets you need, that's your first row complete. And I should have had these nearer me. Ooh. You're going to grab your scissors and you are going to break your yarn. And you need to make sure you've got a tail long enough to weave your ends in with. So for row 2, we've now got the right side of our work facing us, and we're going back to that first stitch, and we're going to put the hook all the way through the stitch there of just that first stitch, and we're going to grab our yarn B as per the chart or the written pattern tells us, and you're going to join there and chain 1. And then into that first stitch, we're going to work a single crochet into the full part of the stitch. And now for the remaining stitches, apart from the very last one, we are going to work a single crochet in the back loop only. Now in mosaic crochet, you only have 2 options of stitches, and that is going to be a single crochet in the back loop only or a mosaic double crochet. And when it's time to work one of those, I'll show you how to do it. But basically in the written pattern, it will tell you either single crochet back loop only, or it will say mosaic double crochet. And that's how very simple it is. And you know, I've said already, like, you only use 1 color per row. So these are our rules to stick by. 1 color per row and they alternate, and the only option for stitches you have are single crochet in the back loop only or a mosaic double crochet. And the written pattern will tell you those obviously in words, and the chart will tell you those in symbols. So when we get to that, I will show you how that works too. Now we've got to that last stitch there, and in the last stitch we're going to go through the full part of the stitch there to finish off and work a single crochet. So we'll always have a single crochet in the full part of the stitch for the very last one and for the very first one, and just make sure that they stand up as high as the rest of the stitches on that row. So then when you've done that one, you are going to break your yarn and pull through, and then you're going to get ready for row 3 and join into that very first stitch again with your yarn A. So we alternate to here and we chain 1, and we know that we're always going to, in that first stitch, do a single crochet in the full part of the stitch. So now you'll see in the written pattern or on the chart, you are now going to also work a single crochet in the back loop only of each of these stitches. So we don't actually start doing any mosaic stitches until we get to row 5. Now here we are at the last stitch, and remember we're going to go through the full part of the stitch to finish off our row. Then we are ready to break our yarn, and we're going to switch back to yarn B with the right side facing, and we join in our first stitch, and remember to go through the full part of the stitch with that first one. So again, row 4 tells us that we just need to work a single crochet. We're not doing any mosaic stitches until we get to the next row. So go ahead and finish this one and then meet me back and we'll begin row 5 together. Here we are, single crochet through the whole of the stitch for that last one, and then we break our yarn and we get ready with our new colour, our colour A, to go into row 5. So a single crochet in the full part of that first stitch, and now we need to refer to either the written pattern or the chart to see where we're going to put our mosaic stitches for this row. So I'm just going to quickly take you through this little sample that we are making here together and explain how the charts, if you've chosen to get the PDF with the charts on, how they work and how they make your life nice and easy. So we've done rows 1, 2, 3 and 4, and although they have colours on them, it will all suddenly make sense once we start making those mosaic stitches. They are plain rows. As you see, we have done just plain rows here, and the magic will come in just a minute when we start making these mosaic stitches. So row 5, you see that the first one, we're in colour A, which is the white on the chart here, and every stitch on that row is going to be white. Don't worry about the fact that some of them are not white, because that just gives you the idea of when you put your mosaic stitches, what the pattern will end up looking like, not what your stitches will look like. The only thing that we need to worry about when we're reading a chart is where the X's are. So if you have an X in a box along on your row 5, that means that you need to work a mosaic stitch for that stitch. So on our second stitch, we have a mosaic stitch, and then we have single crochet in 1, 2 and 3, and then a mosaic stitch, then a single crochet, then mosaic, then single crochet, mosaic, etc, etc, etc. So the only thing we need to know, we know on row 5 that we're using one colour, which is our colour A, and we know that any stitch is going to be that colour, and we know that they can only be a single crochet in the back loop or a mosaic stitch, and the only mosaic stitches are the ones with the X's on the boxes. So don't worry about what colours you can see here other than the colour at the end of the row. It's really odd, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be like, oh, that makes perfect sense. So in the written pattern, it will literally be written out as single crochet and then mosaic double crochet in 1, single crochet in the back loop of 3, mosaic double crochet in 1. And it will just talk you through exactly what this chart is telling you. So let me show you what that looks like in real life. So we've done our first stitch in that stitch, so that's through the full part of the stitch, and the next stitch has got a cross in the box, so that means we need to do a mosaic double crochet, And a mosaic double crochet is a double crochet, and it works down into 2 rows below, which happens to be the same color as the color that you're working in and will always be in the same color that you're working in. And it goes down into the front loop that we've left open of the stitch 2 rows below. So we yarn over and we ignore the other color and we go right down into the stitch below, the corresponding one of 2 rows below, and we're going to go through that loop, yarn over and pull through, and just work a regular double crochet now, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And that is our first mosaic stitch that we've made. Hurrah! And now, working along either in the written pattern or on the chart, we're going to single crochet in the back loop of 3. So we have 1, 2 and 3. Then we come to another mosaic stitch, and we now need to ignore the row below, and we're going to go 2 rows below and we're going to work a mosaic stitch, mosaic double crochet in there. And then we have a single crochet in the next one. And then we have a mosaic double crochet in the next one. Single crochet in the next. And then a mosaic double crochet in the next. So every time I'm saying a single crochet, I actually mean a single crochet in the back loop only, because that's the only option that we have. It's just a right mouthful to say. So make sure you always go into the back loops, because then when we come back to these, we want to be able to know that if we want to or need to, we can work a mosaic double crochet into the front loops there. So always leave the front loop free for if you need to do a mosaic stitch in it. So then if we continue along this row, we are going to do a single crochet in 3, and then we are going to do a mosaic double crochet, a single crochet, mosaic double crochet, a single crochet, a mosaic double crochet, then we get to 3 single crochets, 1, 2 and 3, and then a mosaic double crochet, and then we've come to the last stitch, which, oh, my yarn is desperately trying to get to me, which you will remember is going to be a single crochet in the full part of the stitch there. Then we are ready to break our yarn, and we pull it through and then get our colour B ready to start row 6. Now, dare I say it, that is all you need to know. Honestly, that is how easy and straightforward it is. We follow those rules of alternating colours on our rows, only ever using one colour per row, and then just literally following what it tells you on the tin in the pattern. So either the written pattern telling you to single crochet or mosaic double crochet, or you follow along on the chart, and every time you see an X in a box, you put a mosaic double crochet into 2 rows below. So let's do another row just to make sure it all sinks in. So we join and chain 1, and then we work a single crochet in the full part of the stitch for that first one, and then we have a single crochet in the next. Then I've come across an X in a box, so I'm going to work a mosaic double crochet down into the same colour, so 2 rows below, and just make sure you line up everything. There we go. And then I have 7 single crochet. Now, the other thing that we need to make sure when you're doing mosaic double crochet is you don't lean across to the side too much and then think that that is the stitch that you work into. You need to make sure that you skip that stitch behind there, because that's been allotted, as it were. That's this stitch that we have in front there. So your stitch count should always stay the same for every single row that we have. So there's 7, and then it tells us to do a mosaic double crochet in the next, so down to 2 rows below, single crochet in the next, and then a mosaic in the next. Then we single crochet in 7, Then we're ready for another mosaic stitch. Oops. Then we single crochet in the next, and then single crochet through the full part of that last stitch. And that's our row 6. And as you see, it's starting to piece together. Still looks very odd, but I promise it works. If we just carry on following either that written pattern or the chart, it will give you exactly the result that you need. Now, that really is all there is to it, and you just carry on working, following along, alternating those colours. So as I said earlier, the mosaic sections are all broken down into 21 stitches at the beginning, repeats of 32, and then 2 stitches at the end. And it can be very easy if you're not concentrating, which sometimes I'm very guilty of going a little awry and not quite lining up your mosaic stitches. And it's very tricky then to kind of reverse engineer and figure out where you've gone wrong. So my top tip would be to use stitch markers to kind of partition where your stitch repeats are. So once I got to, I think it was once I got to about here. So where's that? We've just done row 6 there, 7, 8, 9, 10. So once you get to about row 10, put a stitch marker in for the end of each repeat. So that would be stitch 21. And so then when you're working, you go, right, I'm going to work up until stitch 21 and then just check back and make sure I've done that right. And then let me grab another stitch marker. I then decided to go for the 32 stitch repeats. So then we get to here. And you can do this sooner than this row, of course, if you want to, but then you've got your 32 stitches and you know that then that is the 32 that you've got in the chart. And then it's going to repeat again. So you find your next 32 stitches and put your stitch marker in. And without fail, you need to make sure that once you finish that section, you check it. Don't do the whole row and then go back and check. Make sure that you check each section as you make it, because it's much easier to figure out a mistake in 32 stitches than it is in 151. And this is not me saying that you're going to make mistakes. This is just me saying that I made mistakes. So I want to help you make sure that you don't. And then this is the final 32. And then we have 2 stitches here at the end, which we know about as we talked about in that chart. So that's my top tip for keeping track of where you are. And you can either move those stitch markers up as you go along, obviously, or you can just leave them where they are. And I actually left them where they are because once you get this line that comes in play here, it's actually then very easy to then use that as your line to say, right, okay, this is where I'm at. And yes, it's lining up. Or no, it's not. Goodness me, where do I go? So that is all you're going to need to know, I think, for this mosaic section. So start working your way up until you get to this final row of the mosaic section, and then meet me back and I will show you how we do this plain section and put in our optional belt holes. Right, so once you have completed all of the rows of this first mosaic section, it should look something like this. Now, depending on which size you're making, obviously it will be a different width, but the rows of this section are exactly the same for whichever size that you're making. So I've done that last row and I have broken my yarn just as we've been doing to then start on the right side facing. But what we now come to in the pattern is a section that says a plain, I couldn't think what to call it, but a plain section. And I'm going to show you on the side that I have already completed what it looks like, so you know what we're aiming for. It looks like this. So this is the bottom, sorry, that's the top of that mosaic section I finished there. And what we're aiming to do is add this plain section in now that we have here. And you'll see also on this we have the belt holes. So within this simple stitches that we're going to use, we are going to create some little belt holes. Now you don't have to add these if you're not planning on adding a belt at all, if you don't want to. If that's the case, just ignore me when I say that bit, and in the pattern just ignore those chain spaces and just work regular stitches. But if you would like to add a belt to yours like I am to mine, then we just need to add these in at a certain point. So we have our right side facing and we have our yarn A, is what I'm choosing to do mine in. And the important thing right now is to grab your smaller hook. So for these main plain sections, we need to use the smaller hook, the hook size down from the one that we use for our mosaic. If not, you'll get all sorts of wibbly wobbly edges and stuff. And what we're going to be doing is joining into that first stitch just as we have for all of the other rows, and in the end stitches we still work in the full part of the stitch. And for this one we're going to chain one, and then this row we're going to be working extended half double crochet stitches in all of the stitches across. Now an extended half double crochet is a lovely stitch, and all we have to do is yarn over, as if you're going to make a half double crochet stitch. We're going to put the hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, and then the extended part comes now, because normally on a half double crochet you'd yarn over and you'd pull through all three of those loops, but for this extended bit we're going to yarn over and pull through just one, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all three, and that's all there is to it. So just that one extra step from a regular half double crochet. So we yarn over, and for the subsequent stitches along this row up until the last one, we're going to work in the back loop only. So go into that back loop there, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through one, then yarn over and pull through all three. And that's all we need to do for this row. Once you get the hang of it, it's a lovely muscle memory and nice and easy, but it will feel odd if you've not done these before and you're very used to working half double crochet stitches. So don't worry, take your time and finish this row, and then unlike we've been doing for the mosaic section that we've already completed, we're not going to break our yarn, we're not going to go to the right side again, we're going to continue working, we're going to turn, we're going to work this whole section in turned rows now, so you won't have quite as many ends to weave in as you will at the bottom section. So go ahead and work this row and I'll meet you when you've finished. So here I am at the end of that row, and now I'm ready to turn. So now for the second row of this section, we are going to begin with a chain one. And then when we look at our half double crochet stitches, these extended half double crochet stitches, we've got three loops, just like on a regular half double crochet. So the one furthest away from us on turned rows is our back loop. The next one along is our front loop, and then this one looking straight up at us on the front of the work is actually our third loop. So what we want to do is work in our front loop through the whole of this next row. So that's the back loop here, and then we go to the front loop. So if you're looking for an easy way to find it, is the one in the middle, basically. The one in the middle, so that will then leave us a loop at the front and a loop at the back. So we just work away with a single crochet stitch in each of those front loops all the way along this row. And that's all there is to it now for this plain section up until we want to add the belt spaces. Now we repeat these two rows, so your extended half double crochet in the back loop only, and then your single crochet in the front loop only. And what you'll see in the pattern is that you work up until, I need to check, up until row 7. So that's an odd row, so we're going to end on the extended half double crochet stitches. So if you work away until you've done those rows, and then meet me back and I'll show you what we do about the belt spaces. Once we've completed those 7 rows, we're ready to work the row that has the belt holes in it. So for this next row, we are going to introduce some holes ready for your belt to loop through. So essentially we're going to make 2 belt holes, and they are going to be evenly spaced, so we'll have the same number of stitches on this side as we will have on this side. That will give you the space in the center that you would like for your waist to be. Now I've given guidance in the pattern for different sizes as to where you want to put those, but you can put yours wherever you would like. You can make your waist wider, you can make it narrower. You just need to make sure that you have an even number of stitches on either side. So the way that I'm going to do this one is that we are going to chain one, and we continue in the pattern that we have been doing, and we're on a single crochet row, so we're going to work 45 stitches here. But do bear in mind that the numbers will be different depending on which size you're making and indeed where you would like to put it. So then once you've done the number of stitches that you need on that side, we then just need to chain 3 or more or less depending on how big you would like your belt space to be. And then you're going to skip the corresponding number of stitches, so 3 in my case, and then you're going to continue working your single crochets along this row. And now this set of single crochets is going to set the width of your waist here between your belt holes. So for the size I'm making, I just need to check how many that is. I can't remember. It's 53. So I'm then going to work 53 along here, which will take me to somewhere here, I think. And then you chain 3, you skip 3, and then you work the remaining stitches, which will match the first number of stitches that you did. So I did 45, then I chain 3, skip 3, then work in 53, and then chain 3, skip 3, and then work in 45. So you need to make sure that 45 and 45 are the same. Doesn't matter what same they are, as long as they are the same. So go ahead and finish this row, and then you'll see that we turn and we carry on working in this plain pattern that we have for another few rows up until row 10, and then meet me back here, and then we will turn and we will start our next mosaic section together. Once we've finished that plain section, we've now got the right side facing us again, and we're ready to work our next mosaic section. Now, as you remember from this first one here, we need the right side always facing us, and we have the right colour of yarn that we want to start the next section with. So all we now need to do is chain 1 and begin. But the one thing I haven't told you yet, which I should have done before now, is that I have changed back to my larger hook. So whichever size of hook you're using for your mosaic sections, you now need to switch back to that one. I don't know why I'm having trouble, maybe because I was using the smaller size before. So now we are single crochet in the back loop only for the whole of this row in our colour A as per the chart. And then what we'll need to do once we get to the end of that row is, as we did for this mosaic section, break your yarn, and then with the right side facing, join our next colour to the very first stitch and work along. And if I just show you then where we are at on the side that I've already completed, what we're now aiming to do, oh, the colour's gone funny, sorry. What we're now going to be doing is this small section of mosaic crochet that we then work, and then we start to go back to the plain section, and then we have one more section of mosaic crochet to work, another small section here, and then the remaining part of the top is done in our plain stitches, apart from the last 2 rows. So if you get to in the pattern where you need to be, apart from the last 2 rows, then meet me back here and I will just show you how we do this really simple shaping for the neckline. Right, so I have almost finished the whole of this panel. I've got 2 more rows to go. I've turned and I'm working on the wrong side, and I just wanted to show you there's just the subtle neckline shaping that we do. And it's different for different sizes, obviously, because we're going to keep the neckline the same in the middle. We're just going to do slightly shorter stitches for a certain amount. So we're going to do 37 stitches, but you can change that as long as you make sure it sits in the center of your piece. Then you can make it as big or as small as you like, but I've gone for 37 because that's comfortable on me. And so for the size I'm making here, we are going to, I've chained 1, and we're going to be working the single crochets into the front loop, just as we have been throughout the whole of this plain stitch pattern here. And we're going to do that for 57 stitches for this size. And then once you've done the number of stitches you need there, those single crochet, we're then going to be working slip stitches into the front loop of all of the next stitches that you would like. So I'm going to go with 37 here. Then when you've completed those neckline stitches, we go back to our single crochet in the front loop for the remaining stitches, and the amount of stitches here on the end should match the ones that you did at the beginning. So that completes our panel for us. Now we need to make 2 matching panels, and then when you've made your second panel, don't break your yarn at the end here, because we'll be ready to join for the shoulder seams. Now I've already made my second panel, so we can move straight onto that together. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to work here with, I'm going to put the wrong side facing up at me, so the stripy bit and not the mosaic bit of here. So the mosaic sections sit together, and we're going to line up so that we can then join these stitches ready for the neckline to join. So I've just had to undo the seam that I was doing because I thought I was filming, but apparently I wasn't. So I have the panels now facing each other. So I have the wrong side facing up at me, and then we'll have the wrong side here. So the wrong sides are on the outside, meaning that our seam will then be on the inside. So I've chained one here. I'm still attached from where I finished this last panel, and I'm just going to use the front loop here of this stitch. And then I'm also going to find the front loop there of that stitch. And I'm going to work a slip stitch seam in there. So you can sew these together if you would prefer to, of course, but I always think, well, I've got a working yarn, a working loop, I can crochet them together really nicely if you've got stitches, matching stitches. So just work along up until you get to where the neckline stitches start. And then obviously we won't be joining those together, we'll leave a space for the neckline, and then we will break our yarn and we'll rejoin it and seam the other side too. Right, so once those stitches are joined for that seam, we're going to break our yarn. Now it's up to you, but I prefer starting from the outside and working in. So I've turned the whole thing over, and I'm going to just repeat exactly the same process, working in stitch for stitch here from the end in towards where the neckline begins again. So that should be a matching amount of stitches as the other side. I'm tangled up in my yarn here, sorry, that's why I'm taking forever. It should be a matching amount as you did on the other side. And just work that slip stitch seam all the way along here, matching those stitches up. Now that we've joined the front and the back together, we are ready to add this side ribbing, this tiny little piece of paneling that goes along both the front and the back, the long side that we now have. And it's just single crochet in the back loop only for 3 rows. And so I've done this side so that you can see what it looks like, but I'm going to swivel all the way around to the other side. It's just so that we don't have these raw edges along the side, and it just balances and neatens everything up for us. So I've gone with my Color A, and I'm using my smaller hook, and I'm just going to join to the side of this first row here, and I will chain 1 to get going, and then I will work a single crochet in the side of each of these rows, which is nice and easy for this first section here because they are alternating colours, so you can see where they all go. And then when you come to the end of that mosaic section, we come to our plain section, which has of course got taller stitches in. So for each of the extended half double crochets, we're going to work 2 single crochet, and then for every single crochet row, we'll work just 1 single crochet, just like we have been doing up until this point. So here, first of all, I have a row of extended half double crochet. So I'm going to put 2 single crochet in that, and then I have a single crochet row that gets just 1. So for every 2 rows, we now have 3 of these stitches in them. So here we are at another extended half double crochet that then gets 2 stitches in it, and then just 1 for any single crochet row. And that carries on all the way. When we get back to the mosaic section, you have just 1 per row, and then you get back to the plain section and we distribute it differently again. So work all the way along this side up until you get to this end here. And then when you do get to the end, I'll just show you quickly on the bit that I've already done. We then turn, so imagine this is the end of the row. You are going to turn, and then you will chain 1, and then you will work a single crochet in the back loop only of each of the stitches along the row. And that's all that you do for row 2. And then for row 3 you turn, chain 1 and work a single crochet in the back loop only of each. Now if you wanted to, you can obviously extend this, you can work as many rows as you like, but obviously that will add width to your poncho, so just be mindful of that. So go ahead and add this onto both sides and then come back to me and I'll show you what we do next. So the next thing I want to show you is how to make the optional neckband, the cowl, and the belt. Now we work these in exactly the same way. We basically are going to do lots and lots of rows of single crochet in the back loop only. So because they're worked in the same way, I will just show you a sample of how we make the belt, and then the cowl will apply in the same way. And the great thing about these is that you can make them as long and as deep as you would like them to be. So to begin either the belt or the cowl, we are going to be putting a slip knot on the hook, and I'm using the smaller of the hooks that I've been using here. And I am going to chain out as many as you need it to be, plus then 1. Now you can work foundation single crochet stitches here if you would like to, but I'm just going to work with chains here and then work into the back bump of them. So then turning to work in the back bump, I'm going to go in the second chain from the hook and I'm going to work a single crochet in it. I've got dogs pattering around behind me, sorry about that. So now we have a single crochet in each of those, and we are going to turn, and then we will chain 1, but quite a tight chain 1 I find works really well there. And then I'm going to work a single crochet in the back. Oh look, the sun's just come out, my goodness, that's so bright. I'm going to single crochet in the back loop only of each of the stitches across up until I get to that final stitch. And then what I like to do for cowls or ribs or belts or anything, I like to work the single crochet in the last stitch into the full part of the stitch. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I do find sometimes it loses its or it stretches too much sometimes if you work them all into the back loop. So then I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to carry on and work into that back loop only of each of those stitches across. As I say, up until that last one, and then work into the full part of the stitch if you would like to. And that's all there is to it for both the cowl and the belt. You just work as many rows. I have given recommendations within the pattern, of course, for all the different sizes, but you can work as many rows as you like to go around your waist, and also as many rows as is comfortable then to go around your neckline. And so what I will now show you though is how to join this cowl and put it into a ring. So once you're happy that you've got enough rows for your cowl, we need to turn it into a cowl, basically, into a ring. So we're going to join this last row to our first row here. So I've turned and I've chained 1, and now I'm going to work into the front loop only of this stitch here, and then find the corresponding first stitch there at the beginning, and I'm just going to join that with a slip stitch, and then the next stitch goes to the next stitch, and just work along nice and gently. Don't pull tight on this slip stitch seam, just gently work along. And for this cowl I designed it so that it's detachable, but you can attach this if you want to. You can sew this in place if you wanted to, or you could work a join as you go method. So you could work this directly. If you know that you permanently want a cowl on it, then you can work it directly into the poncho itself. But otherwise this can be just a detachable one that you can put on just once your poncho is on. And if you're anything like me, when you get hot, you can take it off. And there we've joined that. And you're ready to weave in these ends, because this is our wrong side. We'll be able to turn to our right side, and that will be our cowl. Thank you so much for joining me to make this crochet mosaic poncho. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I really hope if you've never done mosaic crochet before, you now love it. And if you have done it before, that you love it even more. So I have lots and lots of mosaic patterns coming out very soon that are inspired by this stitch and this style. So do come and follow me, find me wherever. I'm hand and crochet all in the places that you'd expect me to be. And come and show me your makes, come and join the community, and I will see you again soon.